Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we are talking Dynasty content. Now, obviously this whole off season, we're going to be talking rookies, Dynasty, startups, mock drafts, all kinds of fun stuff, so make sure you guys are subscribed. Right now, I'm going to be talking my early, at this standpoint, before rookies, top 12 running back position. Now, running back is always a tough position to kind of determine. You're either getting the top tier, like a Christian McCaffrey, or you're in that weird running back zone where maybe your backs are typically in the range of 12 to 15, and you're just not getting enough points out to really give you a contending type of team. So these are players that I believe in these rankings, the good players you may want to try to go after. Now, of course, the top 3 to 5 players, are going to be really tough to get, right? And I'll talk about some of those players, but some of these aging backs that might be a player that you may want to grab for your team, especially if you are in a contending aspect that may get you into that spot for this upcoming season. So hopefully these videos help you guys out. If you guys have questions of your dynasty, whether it be your trades you got going on, maybe you've got some questions about rankings, anything like that, please feel free to hit me up in the comments. Now, the first running back, number 1, I still have in my ranking is Christian McCaffrey. I know age will always be a thing with running backs, but Christian McCaffrey has been healthy for the last 2 years after having a 2 injury plagued season, right? Like it just really was bad for the last 2 years. Before that, finishing RB1 this past season and RB2 the year before that, it's hard to put Christian McCaffrey anywhere else besides number 1. Like, I get it. He's up there. I know running backs, older than 25 tend to everyone wants to get rid of. Christian McCaffrey is still somebody I'm holding on to, especially if I'm a contending team. Now, maybe if you're in a rebuild status, you may want to let go of Christian McCaffrey, but I'm not letting go of him cheap at all. Look, this whole thing coming up for the 49ers, this team rides through Christian McCaffrey. And one of the things I love about this, he should still be hands down number 1 in redrafts. And that's a whole nother thing we'll talk about in the future over the summer, but he still should be your number 1 running back if you're doing any type of startups. I'm not saying pick him up in the first round, because especially if you are in a super flex or anything like that, I think wide receivers still have a little bit more value in the first couple rounds. And of course, quarterbacks have great value in the first round or so when it comes to super flex. But as far as the first running back off the board, I know a lot of people are going to talk about the next 2, probably that you'll probably want to grab, but I still think Christian McCaffrey will help you there. Look, understand, Christian McCaffrey this past season was 100 points higher than the next running back player. Like 100 points. That is ridiculous, right? 100 points. Think about that. 100 points over the next player. So I get his age is a thing. You still should feel confident in having Christian McCaffrey as your number 1 back. Again, if you can go after him, that's great. If you're a contending team, I would consider it if possible, especially a team that's really looking to kind of let him go. They're trying to rebuild. And if you're in a rebuild, don't have a fear of letting him go. Just understand, don't give away for cheap. I think you have great value there. Get some great picks. Get some great youth coming for you. I think that would be a great way for that. Now, my number 2, you could argue with me, and that's fine. You could kind of put 2, 3, and 4. You can kind of flip them around. You could do it however you like. But in my rankings, I have Jamir Gibbs as my number 2 back in Dynasty. Yes, Bree Hall finished technically as the RB2 last season, and I'll mention him shortly. But I like Jamir Gibbs, and a lot it has to do with the potential of this Lions offense, the potential of what he's capable of. And you can watch any of the Detroit Lions games, you can see what that offense looks like when he's out there in that backfield. It is night and day between him and David Montgomery. Now, don't get me wrong, Montgomery's a great back. He's great for that offense as well. You need a Montgomery on your team. But Gibbs, the explosiveness, you saw it in the playoffs. You saw him in a lot of games this season. He is just amazing. Now, the reason I'm at number 2 compared to Christian McCaffrey is because he is really still the number 2 back in this offense currently, right? They signed a decent amount of money for Montgomery. They're going to utilize Montgomery. There's nothing wrong with that. Gibbs is the future for the Detroit Lions, which is why I still have him at number 2, because his future, it looks bright. It looks great. He's not going to be used as much as, like, say, the next couple backs I'm going to mention, because of the fact that they still love using Montgomery. So the touches will be a lot less, which means he has the potential of outlasting some of these backs because of the wear and tear not being used on him really in these 17-game seasons. So his explosiveness, what he was able to do. There were some amazing games. He showed flashes. I know he finished as RB10, and that was still, again, RB10 behind the fact that Montgomery took a lot of red zone action from him. I really like him as my number 2 dynasty. Number 3, I've got Benjon Robinson. Benjon was the 101 in most rookie drafts this last year in Dynasty. If he wasn't, it's kind of shocking, right? He was your 101 for most people. Now, I have him slightly higher than my next guy based purely on just talent alone. His talent is very generational. Now, he finished as RB9 in an offense that was very anemic and drove everyone crazy. Now, of course, at least for me, I don't want a coach to lose their job. I don't want anybody to lose their job. But with Arthur Smith, with him now being gone, it's a huge difference. Like, let's be honest. This is going to be a big thing for Benjon. He's finally going to be, part of a team that is going to absolutely use his talents. He's going to have an offense that I think is only going to get better and used properly, right? Like, there were just some dumb decisions that were being made for the Atlanta Falcons this past season that just threw everybody off. I'm not even talking fantasy, just in football knowledge. So with that said, Benjon is my number 3. He's very, very talented, great receiving back, can read blocks really well. I like him a lot. Now my number 4, Bree Hall. And like I said, I mentioned, Bree Hall, Benjon, Jamir, those guys can rearrange in most rankings. I like Bree Hall right at the number 4 spot. Bree finished RB2 last season, and that was with a slow start, especially coming off a really bad injury. And the fact that realistically, everybody that played against the Jets knew that Bree Hall was the guy. He was going to get the weapons. He was going to get the opportunities. He was going to get, whether it be on the ground, whether it be the air, like he was going to be the guy. Now, with the quarterback situation, hopefully better next season with Aaron Rodgers back, that's only going to help Bree Hall. Look, the last 3 games of the season, Bree Hall was RB1, RB3, RB2. He was averaging 33.2 points in the last 3 games, which shows you what that type of play he can do and what he can look like this upcoming season with an improved offensive line, Aaron Rodgers back, like defenses actually have to account for the pass, right? I'm looking forward to this. And another year removed from that injury. So I think his explosiveness is great. Like I said, you can move Bree Hall wherever you like. You can put him at the number 2, and I won't argue with you. You can put him at 3, or you can put him at 4. I think these 3 backs, Jamir, Benjon, and Bree, can really interchange with themselves. But this is kind of the order I have because of the other situations for those 2. Now, number 5, I know a lot of people are going to be against this one. I have Kiron Williams. Look, Kiron had an amazing season finishing as RB7. Had he not missed any time this past season, Kiron easily would have finished clearly as the RB2. Kiron was averaging 21 points a game, only behind Christian McCaffrey, where he was averaging 24 points a game. Kiron had 12 touchdowns in 12 games. He averaged 5 yards a carry. Kiron came into the season very unknown, right? Especially behind a Cam Akers that continuously had been in the doghouse for the Rams, but there was going to be a potential chance of him playing, and that never really, put into fruition. Kiron took over almost immediately, and just night and day difference when he was in that offense. Again, had he not been injured, he would have been an amazing back this season. He won a lot of people their playoffs, especially when he came back at the right time for everybody. He just was a scoring machine. He is definitely a big, big piece in this offense. And I get it. Look, when you still have to account for Matthew Stafford, you got Puka Nacua, who was amazing this past season. You got, obviously, Cooper Kupp that's still there. Tyler Higbee. Like, that offense is really good. And you have Kiron Williams, who's just sitting back there ready to start scoring another touchdown. He probably scored one just now. Like, that's how good he was this past season. A lot of people are kind of hesitant. I've seen a lot of people with some Kiron Williams slander out there on Twitter. And just... it's just one. Like, I truly think he is not a one-hit wonder. I think this is actually just a sign coming forward. So I have him as my number 5 back in Dynasty. Number 6, I got Travis Etienne. Etienne started off last year so strong, averaging 20.4 points a game in the first 8 games. But, man, after their bye week, they struggled. Like, the first 8 games, 20 points, 8 touchdowns in those 8 games. He was a workhorse. But then after their bye week, he only averaged 13.1 points. Like, that was bad. Only scored 4 touchdowns in those last 9 games. The offensive line is absolutely a concern for this Jacksonville team. And you can see it. The Jacksonville Jaguars struggled completely towards the end. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was dealing with a lot of injuries. You lost Christian Kirk. So there are other factors that played into this. but man, did they struggle. Biggest reason why I don't have Travis Etienne any higher is I think the other backs ahead of him are just super talented and I think in great offenses. On top of that, without an improvement in this offensive line, I do worry, right? The year before last, he was averaging 5.1 yards a carry. This past year, 3.7. Not good. Like, not good at all. Usually backs are 5 to 4 yards a carry for the first, 4 to 5 years in their career. And then you start to see those really low 4 yards per average, maybe the 3s. That offensive line struggled heavily. There was just a lack of explosiveness, and that does concern me. So that's why I don't have Travis Etienne in higher, and I don't think I will put him any higher than where he is at right now. This is his top peak spot, I think, for me, just because he is a workhorse. He can show explosiveness. He has that ability, but as of right now, I just can't see him going any higher. Number 7, I've got Jonathan Taylor. I get it. There's a lot of injury concerns with Jonathan Taylor, right? He had another injury-riddled season, held him back. 2 years in a row, he's been RB33. So I get the worrisome. I think this is a good time to potentially buy him at a good price just because some people may just want to just move on from him. So I think that's a good chance to possibly get him this offseason. But when he did play, he averaged 15.6 points a game, right? He finished the last game of the season with a 27-point performance with 188 yards on the ground. With a better offensive line performance this upcoming season, you're getting your quarterback, Anthony Richardson, back, who's only going to help, again, allow defenses to kind of play both Richardson's RPO style and his ability, and of course, the possibility to throw down the field. Hopefully, they keep Michael Pittman. Jonathan Taylor won't necessarily be the workhorse that he needs to be. I know Zach Moss did really well, and he's still there. I still think they're going to use him. And the fact that 25 is, again, that's where he's at in this age. He's 25, and I know that sounds horrible, but backs start to really see the decline age 27, 28. So he's getting inching closer. And of course, with injuries that he's had to deal with, might hurt him a little bit more. I still have high hopes for him just because I think this offense is going to still be even better. I think obviously getting Anthony Richardson is going to be huge. Hopefully a fully healthy season for Jonathan Taylor, I think is going to only help. I do like him at number 7. Number 8, Rashad White. White became a solid PPR back this past season, finishing with 64 receptions. He had 9 touchdowns overall for the season as the full-time back. Look, there isn't a lot of competition for Rashad, which is great currently at the moment. And you have an offense that just absolutely utilized him. He played really well. Now, my only concern with Rashad White, part of it is I think if they were to go after a back this offseason, that worries me. I think he'll still lose some touches, and I think he won't be the clear-cut RB1 on the team. The other thing is the Bucs just lost their offensive coordinator to a head coaching position, which now you got to figure out, okay, how's this offense going to play? Then the Bucs have to deal with, are they going to re-sign Baker Mayfield? I think having Baker Mayfield actually was a great thing for this offense, right? Because he was not afraid to throw down the field. You got to deal with Mike Evans possibly not being there. Like, there's a lot of questions on this offense that does concern me some for Rashad White, because you don't know if Mike Evans is back. I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield's going to be back. And then now you're going to have a whole new offensive coordinator, and who knows what that scheme is going to look like. So there are some questions, but I still like what Rashad White was able to do. I think he still has the ability to still be a top back, especially if the Bucs do not go after another running back this offseason, because you're still going to have at least the opportunities to be in a top 10 performance. Now, number 9, I've got Kenneth Walker. And Kenneth Walker, I almost dropped a little bit further. So I get it, especially because of the fact that the old regime is gone. I'm not sure how the new head coach, whenever that may be announced, it's going to look like, right? I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to hire a head coach that's offensive minded? And maybe that's only going to be an improvement for Kenneth Walker. Or is it going to be another defensive minded head coach that maybe he does, just doesn't know how to use his talent, the talent that they have in this offense? And then on top of that, of course, Charbonnet is still a question that you got to deal with. Now, Kenneth Walker did miss 2 games in each of the last 2 seasons. There are games where Walker put up 20 points, and there are games he put up 2 points. So the inconsistency is definitely a worry. He's not the PPR back that I think Charbonnet is. Charbonnet definitely showed better signs in that. So, in the fact that they did spend a second-round pick on Charbonnet may be like, well, maybe let's see what kind of opportunities we can give him. So I do worry about that. Now, if you look at my full rankings list, and I'll put the link in the bio, you can look at that where I've got the top 36 rankings. I do like Charbonnet. I do have a little bit higher. I still am not fully sold on him, but I do like Kenneth Walker at 9. I maybe after this offseason and kind of see what happens, I might change that. Again, these are early rankings, but I'll keep him at number 9. Number 10, I've got James Cook. Look, I'm not sure how I feel about the Bills offense. On one hand, with the changes they made at their OC, Cook saw more touches. He played well in those stretches. He finished overall as RB12. But the last 3 games was really questionable as far as looking at this Bills offense. He only averaged in those 3 games 5.5 points. Like, that's horrible. The 4 games before that, he averaged 24.1 points. So there's a lot of inconsistency of how this Bills offense looked and how they played out. I'm not putting that on James. Like, I don't think that is an issue with James. I think he still would have played well. He just didn't get a lot of touches. He didn't get a lot of opportunities. The offense changed a little bit towards the end of the season. And I get it. They put a lot more on Josh Allen and kind of just had him try to win the rest of the season to get them in the playoffs, which they did. So there was success there. But the fact is I'm not sure how that plays out for James Cook. Are they going to be like that for next season, right? Like, they're concerned with their window for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. But I do like James Cook. Right now, he's really their RB1. I know they obviously had Latavius Murray, and they had other running backs come in, but they didn't really affect James at all. I mean, a couple games you saw maybe a few more touches here and there, but he still was the back for the Buffalo Bills. So I still like him here. Again, I have him at number 10. I think he could potentially go a little bit higher than, say, Kenneth Walker or Rashad White, depending on what their offseason looks like for their teams. But I do like James Cook at number 10. Number 11, I got Isaiah Pacheco. Look, Pacheco was one of my favorite players to watch. Pacheco played really well. He finished his RB14 this past year. He showed the ability to be the guy and was definitely trusted by Andy Reid. He did miss a couple of games, which obviously played a factor. Had he played all 17 games, he definitely would have crept into that top 10 spot in the running back rankings. I have him outside the top 10 because I want to see more out of this Chiefs offense. Look, Rashad White definitely showed up towards the end of the season. Travis Kelce, we're not sure what's going to happen next season, depending on how well I think if they win the Super Bowl, there's a chance Travis Kelce just retires. Maybe he doesn't, right? But I want to see how this Chiefs offense goes. Do they get another wide receiver to help really Rashee Rice, help obviously, Mahomes? Because if that is the case, I think that only helps Pacheco. I don't think it hinders him at all. I think the fact is now you still got to deal with Patrick Mahomes throwing to not just Rashee Rice, but maybe Kelce, and then obviously another receiver. Like, that's going to be a big factor. And there's some good receivers in this class coming up for the rookies. So there's a chance that this offense gets a little bit better on the receiving side, and that's going to help Pacheco. He's definitely a great back. He shows that he can be the guy for them. I like him a lot. I have him at number 11. Now, my last running back in my Dynasty early rankings is Devon Etienne. I'm sure some analysts have Etienne higher than me, and I get it. Which I get it. Like, he averaged 17 points a game when he was healthy, and he was amazing. The beginning of the season, he had a 3-game stretch where he had 455 yards in those 3 games. He had a 203-yard performance. He scored 5 touchdowns in those 3 games. This was also a game where he had to deal with Raheem Mostert, who had his best season ever as well. Like, that's how great this offense was for the Dolphins. Look, the biggest concern that I have for Etienne is what's going on with Mostert? What's going to happen if Etienne does become the full-time back? Like, that is definitely something to consider. I look at it as far as like a Tony Pollard, right? Like, I don't have him in my top 12. Tony Pollard was great because of the ability to be that explosiveness, right? Like, I don't know if any of you guys ever remember the Giants back in the day when they had their thunder and lightning, right? Brandon Jacobs and Tiki Barber. You had Ron Dane and Tiki Barber. Like, that was the kind of offense that these guys do a great job. Etienne and Mostert are very similar, though. They're both very fast backs, so it's the kind of difference. You got lightning and lightning, but I don't know if Etienne's going to be the full-time back at some point. There's a good chance. I actually would love for him to be the second and third down back in some of the goal line work. I think that's where he excels the most. I think that's where he can be really effective. He doesn't need to be a 3-time back. Like, I think give him second down, give him third down, maybe give him first and second down. Like, give him plenty of opportunities. I think he's more of a 60-40 type of back than he is a back who's getting 70 to 80 touches, 80% of the snaps and touches. So I do have him there. It may change. I might look at more film. I might look at more things and be like, man, maybe I'm wrong and put Etienne higher, but I have him at number 12. So those are my early rankings for 2024. Again, hopefully this helps you guys out, especially if you guys are doing any startup content. I'm going to be doing a lot more rankings. I'm going to be dropping some mock drafts. I'm actually going to be giving you some information and some stuff from the Senior Bowl. I'm super excited for that. I've got some great opportunities there. I'll be there live in person, give you guys some content, and talk about some of these great seniors coming out that are going into the NFL draft. So make sure you guys just subscribe. Stay tuned for more content from me. Follow me here. Follow me on X, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you guys have your socials. And I'll check you guys out next time.